All right. My name's Andy Purdick, Regional Sales Manager for Verizon Fios, New York City. And with me today, I have three of my peers, and I just take a moment and let each of those guys introduce themselves. And the reason why they're up here is because our region, which is New York City, requires many people on the street to understand what your buildings are about. So when you have questions later, these three gentlemen will help us answer. But also, when you have real specifics, I'm going to say this at the end also, visit us at booth 100, because there's a team of Verizon folks that can help you out with your specifics, all right? So with this, Brian.
Sure. My name is Brian Zabzam. I am a business development manager. I support the Queens area and Staten Island.
Hi, my name is Rich Della Fuente. I'm a business development manager. I handle Manhattan.
My name is Daniel D'Onofrio. I'm a business development manager, and I handle Manhattan as well.
All right, great. And then listen, during the presentation, if you have questions, guys, just ask, and then we'll keep this as fluid as possible. You know, this is probably my 8th year doing this presentation, and much of the presentation is very much the same. But what is changing is the Internet of Things has created this bandwidth demand. And when I was telling my daughter, who's 17 years old, that I said, I'm going to be doing this presentation today, I told her it's been about my 8th year, and she didn't really give too much. You know, she didn't think much of it. But when I explained to her, quite honestly, that when I first did this presentation, our internet speeds in Verizon were 5 megabits download, 2 megabits upload. And today, our internet speeds are gigabit speeds download and upload. So over the last 8 years, we went from a broadband might need it to a broadband must have it. So here's the safe harbor statement. All right, the first thing that we're going to do today is make sure everyone understands this is a marketing presentation. This is something where you're going to be very excited about, something that you're going to probably want to buy stock with. And what we're going to say to you is you're going to do that at your own discretion, right? This is basically saying this is Andy talking freestyle, and nobody in Verizon is going to back me up on the stocks, right? So anyway, that's the modification of that. And Dean Bailey just arrived. Thank you, Dean.
Yeah,
all right.
Dean.
All right.
Dean, we have a seat.
Dean's on my team.
Come here.
He's always on time, except when he's late, so. All right, anyway, here's the introductions we just did. Dean's another great guy. Bandwidth explosion, right? We're going to talk a little bit about bandwidth and how this really impacts your life today in the MDU. Talk a little bit about the future of Fios, but when I talk about Fios, there's a lot of good options out there. There's a lot of cable companies, there's satellite companies, there's cellular companies. Everybody has a niche, everyone has a place, and broadband is what the common factors will be. Technology. I was having a discussion with Joyce before, and technology matters, right? The Internet of Things, the way we're going to be doing cars, shopping, watching TV, over-the-top video, so forth. It really, really becomes, you know, 9 years ago, TV was up here and Internet was down here. That has shifted, and it's not going to go back, right? The broadband bandwidth is going to be where it's going to be played. And then closing thoughts, which I usually share every moment. So we'll move that up. All righty, so this is one of my favorite slides because I drove in from New Jersey today, and when I drive in, there's a lot of cars. If I don't get out of my house by 7 o'clock, there's a lot of traffic. And when I'm driving down the highway, going through the Lincoln Tunnel, there is congestion. And then when I leave tonight, which will be about 9 o'clock, I have to go to a board meeting, there's going to be less traffic. So I'll get home quicker. So we use this as the download, upload concept. This is something that you really want to understand. When you're looking at your bandwidth that you currently have, whether it's Verizon or a cable company or a satellite, so forth, what you really need to understand is what is your upload speed? What is it that takes you to the office? How fast do you get there? And then what's your download speed going home? Two directions matter. And it's going to matter, as I'll share with you, because we're doing more things over the internet. So it's not just downloading information. We're sharing information. We're sharing videos. We are gaming. We are doing virtual reality. We are doing things today that we're pushing information out, not just taking information down. So when you look at your internet speeds, you should always ask the question to no matter who you have, what is my upload and download speeds? I will tell you up front, Verizon is the only company with Fios that provides symmetrical speeds. So if I tell you it's 50 megabit download, it's 50 megabit upload. When I tell you that it's 500 megabit download, it's 500 megabit upload. So that's something to understand, because this is going to be the foundation for how you're going to use Internet of Things. All right, this is New York City. I'm going to have to get down for this to read it. So this is the highway for New York City. New York City has 8 million people. There's 8 million people that live in New York City. Okay? So there's a lot of cars. Worldwide, there's 7.8 billion people. And I say that because we're such a concentrated area. So anyway, 8 million people, New York City. First thing to understand, a lot of people in a concentrated area. Second thing to understand, people per square mile, USA. Iowa, North Dakota, all that stuff. There's 87 people per square mile in this country. In New York City, there's 27,000 people per square mile. And we know that. We just go outside and then we're going to see them all, right? So there's a lot of people in a small area. So think of that. A lot of people in a small area. The land per square mile, 3.5 million square miles in the country. In New York City, 302. Now, what does that mean? That means we got a lot of people in a concentrated area living on a small island. A lot of people. Living units. There's 132 million in the USA, and in New York City, there's over 3 million living units. Now, I put this together to share with you why the West Side Highway during rush hour is so crowded, and I have to time my commute so I'll be able to get to work on time, and I gotta time my commute home so I can get home on time, so I don't spend my life in the car. Now, when you're using the internet, this is how it plays together. If you're going on the internet with 27,000 people per square mile, and you're competing for a highway lane, the chances are you're not going to be able to go as fast, or you're going to have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to download that movie. So, from a participation question perspective, does anyone go on the internet and get, and I'm talking internet as far as bandwidth goes, speed, does anyone go on the internet and find it slower at certain times? Can I ask, just for the heck of it, what time of day would be slower. Between 5 to 7, everyone's getting on the internet. Kids are home from school. We're done with work. And the good thing about working these days is when we get home, our companies let us still work, right? So we have that advantage. We're lucky, right? And I get to do it till 9 o'clock, so I'm really super lucky. But what happens is you got to manage congestion. That's the key here. You got to manage the congestion. So when we look at this, we got to figure out either alternate or then change my lifestyle as to when I'm using the internet to be more productive, or find a better way. Because what's coming with this 27,000 people living in a square mile is the Internet of Things, right? We're not just downloading, we're uploading. We're going to have internet TV. We're going to be watching internet without a cable box, right? We're going to be watching TV just through the bandwidth. We're going to have internet connection. So it's really, I'm hammering this point because it's really key to understand this, right? How can I get a better internet experience, more productive, faster speed, and do it when I want to do it? That's what's key. Could you hit the next slide, Dean? This is a trial now.
I need my glasses.
I didn't have Dean through the training program. Hold on, Dean. It's an arrow. Sorry, buddy.
Thank you. There we go. We did it.
Don't worry, when we come to put files in, normally we have 5 of these guys, so. Great experience. All right, not all bandwidth is created equal, right? So I put up Verizon Fios. Verizon is a fiber optic connection into your unit. It is light, that's how the data transfers, and it gives you symmetrical speeds. Other options in New York City, Spectrum, Altice, RCN, all provide quality internet based on the model of a cable infrastructure. So it's a little different, and you all have your own experiences, but that's another option in New York City. And then you have wireless. Everybody wants to be wireless. Then the whole future is going wireless. Well, if you follow what's been happening with the FCC, they just sold a bunch of spectrum. So here's what you got to understand. In New York City, there's only so much land. You're not going to create more land. Well, it's the same with spectrum. You're not going to create more spectrum. So what is the media that's going to give you the best opportunity to grow? The answer is light, which is fiber optics. If you think about Google, Google went through a whole brand. They call themselves, anyone know what they call themselves in broadband? Let me turn to my left.
Google Fiber.
Google Fiber, right? And then Google Fiber is no longer Google Fiber. They're pulling out of the business. Why? Because it's hard to do fiber. It is. It's complex. We come into your unit. We got to get permission from the board. We got to go into the hallways. We got to do all this. But at the end of the day, people are starting to realize that that hassle is worth the infrastructure of the property, because it's starting to separate properties, quite honestly. So Google Fiber wanted to do broadband, and they found out it's kind of difficult, it's a challenge. You got to know how to do it. We did it 1.5 million units in the city. No one else is close to this, right? That said, it validated the quality of the internet or the broadband. It was fiber optics. So out of all these options, and satellite, it's raining today, so the experience of satellite is not that great. But it serves a purpose. If you live in a place where you don't have options, all of these serve a purpose. So ultimately, we're coming back to the Internet of Things, and if I'm mobile, I better have a 5G type connection, because that's just how it is. So all of these fit somewhere in your life. You just have to figure out what's the best fit. Okay? Brian? All right, so this is why I keep this slide, because every year it just grows, right? 60% of the internet traffic is done over video. And what we're finding now is not just the Netflix, which is a big use, obviously. Facebook, YouTube has just released their own TV type of quality. If I talk to my daughter, my son's 20 years old, they consume most of their content over YouTube. And it's just how it is, you know? So this is growing. So 60% is all being downloaded. What's going to happen next year when I update this, it's going to be higher. But also, this is a download, right? This is the going to the office. Now I want to go home and get that other number. As far as that goes, we're doing virtual reality, gaming, and the biggest thing that's hitting the internet with this video is people are sharing messages via what? The name of the slide is video. So, they're sharing messages via video, right? Smart, you know, all these Snapchat things, everything's video, right? So that's the bandwidth hog. Now, from an applications perspective, what application in your house uses the most, what appliance in your house would use the most bandwidth today?
Gaming.
Dean said gaming, and he is incorrect.
In my house.
You never invited me for Thanksgiving, Dean, so I have no idea. Go ahead. Yeah. No. It's a good, I mean, I'm getting to a point here.
iPad.
You do your computer, 4K TV. Okay? So now everyone's got to have a 4K TV. I used to have the bigger TVs. And then years ago, I'm getting a new TV, and I walked into the store, PC Richards, everything was a flat screen. I'm old school. I want my 400-pound TV. They don't sell them anymore. So it's sometimes the 4K is now becoming a resolution. The 4K TV, to operate a 4K TV, requires 20 megabits of bandwidth. So if you have a 50 megabit connection and you have two TVs, I'm going to go back to Dean because he got this. Two TVs, 20 megabit each. Dean, what's the total?
40.
40. He got it. He's my number 2. 40 megabit, right? And now you got to use it for other things. Computer. What's the average number of devices in a house? National. They say 10. But I'll tell you what, if you have an iPhone, the 4K TVs, if you have iPads, you're going to blow through that. Sonos radio, you know, there's people at times I've done this that said 25 devices, right? That's just growing. The Internet of Things is growing, right? You're going to have smart refrigerators, right? You're going to tell you when to get your milk if you need that, but I guess some people will. At the end of the day, medical situations. So the Internet of Things is going to be coming into the household, and it's going to be sucking up the bandwidth to the point that when I first did this at 5/2, the standard now for us in Verizon, if you just want internet retail, is really, we start with 100 over 100. It used to be 50 over 50, and then we've seen everybody's moving up. And when you look at the prices, our gigabit connection price, triple play, with custom TVs online is $79. It's unbelievable, you know. But at the end of the day, if you want it by itself, it's like $70. What I'm saying though is the market is taking us to a point. Do you need gigabit type of speeds, close to gig speeds today? Probably not, but it's going to happen quick, right? The Apples, the Googles, all of the application developers are creating this need for speed, right? So the 4K TV is what we see. Average house has 2, 3 TVs. 3 TVs, 60 megabit, you're done. And then when my daughter has her high school friends over, and they ask for the guest password, and then they start using it. You know, it's just a side. As a dad with a sarcastic sense of humor, I go into my router and I change my password for the guest. So when I know when my daughter's friends are coming over, the password is Molly, clean your room. So when they come over, what's your dad's password, Molly? Molly, clean your room. And I change it. But so, and then you know she wants to move out. So let me know why. I don't know. I love my daughter. Hope she doesn't move. Next one. All right. So this is the thing we were talking about, right? Connected devices. Right now they're saying there's 7 to 10. Right? There's 20 by the year 2020. That's a personal thing, right? You know, how many we're going to have. Smartphones. You know, this is the other thing. Everyone wants a TV, and I'm noticing with that generation, they have no problem looking at their iPhone and watching YouTube for 2 hours in bed. They really don't. They think that's perfectly fine looking at a 5-inch screen. But it's a 6-to-1 ratio, right? The smartphone app. You know, Joyce and I were talking. I'm not even sure why it's called a smartphone anyway. It's really a media device, right? I think I do everything but use the phone because no one picks the phone up when I call them. I text, and I learn, right? And then Netflix, you know, as far as download information. All of the companies, the cable companies, Verizon, and so forth, we're going to be doing Internet Protocol TV, IPTV. And it's going to be downloading information and content. And then gaming's 25%. Dean's a gamer, I'm not, but I know when people compete, that millisecond matters, and there's no buffering per se, right, with a higher internet speed. So if you want to game in prime time, you're going to go back to, once again, looking at the quality of your bandwidth at the time that you want to do it. All right, next one. Speed test. All right, this one's good. This could be any speed test. This is something that I want you to do today. This is going to make this session worthwhile, and you might make a little money with your provider, whether it's Verizon or a cable company. I want you to go home, and I want you to do a speed test. Now, this is the one that we have on our website. This isn't a Verizon speed test. It's just a link. You can do any other speed test that you want. And you type in the URL speedtest.verizon.com. And then I suggest that you hardwire into the router, right? Or you can do it a Wi-Fi way too. But you'll see if you're buying 50 megabit of data, you'll see whether you're downloading 50 megabit. And you'll also see, which a lot of companies don't advertise the upload, you'll also see what your upload speed. And the upload speed is how much information can I share? How fast can I share that information? Now think about the Internet of Things, and there's telemedicine. And rather than get on the West Side Highway and wait in traffic, we're going to be monitored remotely. I want to get my results to my doctor pretty quick. And if my upload speed is with the wagon wheel, you know what I mean? There's got to be a time where we might want to pick that up a little bit. There might be a moment, right? But anyway, it's good to know what your speeds are, because then you can call your provider and either up your speed or at the very least say, hey, listen, I'm considering switching because you're promising me this. Joyce knows this one. What can you do for me now? Right? So that's what I mean, it's worth money. Because you should know, just as a consumer, this isn't even Andy as a Verizon guy, you should know what you're buying. You should know if you're getting what you're buying. It should support what you're buying. And I find a lot of folks, when I go to board meetings, don't necessarily, well, we signed up for this. But a lot of people don't know what the quality of their speed is. And I would do this, not at 3 in the morning, do it when you want to use the internet. Because it can be fast as heck at 3 in the morning, but if you're sleeping, that's good to know for the guy working the night shift. But for me, I want to be on it, as the gentleman said, between 5 and 7. I want to be on it when it's quality, right? Next one, please. All right. Fiber optics, I think I hit that one. Go ahead. Go ahead. This one just, all right. So this is just the Verizon concept. Somebody asked me before, and I figured we had this in here. So when you look at your property, there's a couple of things to consider when you want to be prepared for the Internet of Things. Is, do you have a good roof, right? Do you have security at the front door? And do you have the infrastructure to support the bandwidth requirements so when you're living at that property, you're having the best experience possible? So Verizon has a couple of options, and your other providers will have similar options, right? Where if in Verizon, if the building commits 100% to FiOS, you can get up to 40 to 50% discount on your normal rate. The other option is you don't want that and you want everyone to pick. That's fine too, right? You just pay a little more, but you'll pay for the retail rate, which is fine. It's advertised all day long. So you can have a choice. A couple of properties that I sold this to actually used it as an image factor. Now, trivia question, how many units are in New York City? Anybody? 3 million, 3.2 million, right? 5 boroughs, 3.2 million. Of those, Verizon's in about 1.6 million. The video franchise is up in 2020. Verizon is obligated to live up to the franchise, and we want to. But at the end of the day, if we've been doing FiOS for 9 years, and we're in, I don't know, half the buildings, let's say, the likelihood in the next 3 years we're going to do the other half, not so great. So there's a point where there's going to be a new model coming out. So I encourage people, and we get these calls every day. My calls are more about when can I get FiOS than about the service, right? And we're trying to work with buildings, but there's infrastructure challenges, so forth. But when we work through all of that, the cable, the hallways and the outside and all that, once you have this product, there's buildings that are marketing it as a broadband amenity. And you can see certain properties when you go in and talk to the leasing agent or the co-op boards that are selling it, they're listing fiber optic to the unit. Now, I bought a house once, and the prior owner had to do some work with the foundation. It was a hassle. I didn't know. It was a hassle, right? So the guy moves to Texas, gets transferred by Exxon, he has a baby. He lives through all this. And I buy the house after he had all the hassles done, right? I didn't know that either, just after the fact. What I'm saying is, once you incur the hassle of going through the inconvenience of someone in your unit, and you have it there, you're as good as gold because you're one step closer, right? And once you do your speed test, you're going to see what I mean about good as gold. So the bulk process is really a way to separate your building, 100% people get access to it at a discount. Go ahead. All right, this is the conclusion. I'm going to open this up to questions. I put the word epic in there only because my kids were reading my slides, so I wanted to let them think I knew what that was all about. But at the end of the day, it really is epic. I mean, the broadband growth, this is going to be the same presentation next year, just new numbers. Because the broadband growth, New York City is going to still be 27,000 people. It's going to be 300 square miles, and it is going to be congested. And the Internet of Things is going to make it even more. So even though there's 27,000 people per square mile, Next year, it's going to feel like 35,000 because more and more and more and more and more people are going to be connected. And more people are connected, more and more and more applications are going to be required. The quality of life follows that, right? So, and then the other concept here is the whole program. Now, everyone has a building, everyone might have a question. I'm more than willing to answer the questions with the team. However, if you go to booth 100, we can drill down even more in your specifics. If you want to tell me about your molding challenges, we can do it now or down there. It's just that I have more of my folks down there and I can answer it. If you want to talk about pricing, all that good stuff. So is there any questions in general on the topic? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, 1, 2. Go ahead, man. Hold on.
I'm asking about the road rate. Why does it have to be 100%? Why not?
I want to know that same answer.
With 100% participation, it allows us to give a greater discount to the property. So that's the format that we use.
Hold on. But there's another answer.
Why don't you have
Yeah, but here's the answer. Okay, one of the challenges, whether it's us or the cable companies,
Content.
is the content cost. We don't own it. So a lot of times in the news, you're going to see Fox News or Fox Business or Fox Sports. It's not going to be carried because there's a contract fight. Yes Network's not going to be carried because they charge the ISP, whether it's Verizon, Spectrum, Cablevision, whoever, they charge for that. Our contract for content is discounted if we have 100% of the building. So if I have a building with 20 units and 19 people agree and one does it, they don't get the discount. I should say it another way. If I have a building with 1,000 units and they only sign up for 999, I don't get the discount. If I have a building with 20 units and all 20 say yes, they will get a rate almost 40 to 50% less, and it's a legal content requirement. That's why. Yeah, it is the answer. And I understand the question, but that's why they chuckle, because we get it. Yeah.
Basically.
Trickle down Ronald Reagan economics. Yes.
Can you just expand on your comments about the rollout or the pause of the FiOS rollout? I'm speaking as a property manager.
Yeah, so...
Like literally every question from every resident is, when is it coming?
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to give you the quick answer, and then you can hit us up in the booth for specifics. But the question is, how can I get FiOS, and why is the rollout slow? All right. Why did it go backwards? I'll help you out even more. All right. So the reason why you feel this pause is because there's 1.5 million units. We're under a video franchise. We have to meet the requirements of the franchise, which is if you're first in, first out type of thing. But when we get to the buildings, some buildings, Peter Cooper Village, Stuytown, 11,000 units. They have their own entrance. They have this. It's kind of easy to build that, even though it's big. Other buildings could be in the middle of a block. So you're preventing, not that you would, 2 customers want it. The way the building's fed, we got to put a cable on the back of the building. Might be hard to get to this gentleman to get permission. The only way I can feed these guys is to get permission in the middle. And it becomes a very, very tedious concept. We absolutely want to build your building. But then we get permission. Then we go into the building and the guy says, wait a minute, I got new crown molding and you're not going to touch my molding. So in theory, I want FiOS, but I don't want you anywhere in my building. And then the discussion is, well, you realize there's fiber optic cabling light that needs to get there. So Thus, the discussion becomes, well, give me wireless. Thus, the discussion becomes, well, it's not as fast, and it's more expensive, and it's not of high quality. So it's really a building-specific issue, but I can assure you, we absolutely want to build it. It's just that there's a limited amount of time, but the bigger issue is trying to find out and get hey, you guys live in a co-op, and my guys will say this, we go to a co-op board meeting and there's 10 board members. There's 10 board members, the likelihood of all 10 say yes at the same day, and it's a Monday night, there's always a board member that says it's Tuesday night. So we don't always get consensus. You know what I mean? But that's my best shot. But if you have specifics, let us know. Go ahead, sir. Yeah,
Yeah, I want to ask about, is this working? Yeah. I want to ask about telephone service, which you didn't mention, the old-fashioned thing of talking to somebody on the telephone. Now, of the 8 million people you said lived in New York, it's a little higher now. About half of them are immigrants or the children of immigrants, and they want to call other countries. Now, Verizon, although you're supposed to be the greatest phone company in the world or one of the greatest, you don't have very good international calling plans. Actually, the cable company, I'm using Spectrum partly because they have a much better deal for international calling. Now, somehow your management doesn't get the importance of this. You need something like a plan where you pay, well, for example, even your sister company, Verizon Wireless, they temporarily were getting it to some extent. They had a plan where you could, for $20 a month, you could have 1,000 free minutes calling almost any country in the world. Now, you don't have that, and in fact, they discontinued it. They were stupid. And so why doesn't your management, yeah, why doesn't your management get the importance?
let me clarify. How long have you been working at Spectrum? No? Okay. I thought you worked at Spectrum. I thought you were the guy. Okay. Hey, God bless Spectrum. Listen, once again, it's going to come down to the flavors, right? Spectrum, Maltese, whatever. You know, everyone's going to have a certain plan, and you got to fit what's best for you. I can tell you with voice over IP, I don't want to get too detailed here, but the old telephone concept that we see as the vision and bandwidth is really, you should be making a lot of these calls for free coming up because it's IP driven, meaning it's a data path. So it's really voice over IP. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to disregard what you're saying, and if there's a better deal, listen, I encourage you to use Spectrum for a telephone, right? But, you know, but I get it, but it is what it is kind of concept. You find out what's best for you.
Why can't your management come up with a better plan?
It's surely a strategic decision. You know, I don't have I don't have the answer, you know, quite honestly. You know, I can tell you why we have gigabit files, because we see that as the growth, you know.
Andy, I can tell you what we do have for the international rates.
Go ahead.
Right now we have, it's 500 minutes, 120 countries for $19.99, so it works out to be like 4 cents a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, even on the internet, there's, you know what is confusing when you watch TV and there's an offer every day. You know, it's either a pharmaceutical company, it's a wireless company, or it's a broadband company. And those three industries just run commercials all night long. You know, they go back and forth. So it's kind of like, if you can go look at yourself in your specific situation, there's probably an offer that Ryan obviously knows more that might fit you. You know, like I said, I come back to the internet. People think they have 50 megabit speeds. A lot of people don't know what speed they have. So I think the more educated we are, then maybe we find something. Go ahead, man. Yep. Yeah. A little closer.
Optic fiber still means wiring.
Yes.
So say if our unit wants Verizon, they have to come wire the whole building,
Yes.
it may take 9 months.
Yep.
But when you said wireless, why do we still need wiring?
So the question was, in Fios, which is a fiber optic cable, you need to do that, and the answer is yes. And then the question is, why does it take so long? Typically, it takes us 3 months, but there's obstacles that we run into. We do a survey prior to wiring buildings, so we get permission from the building prior to the design, but then there could be hallway renovations, we gotta pause, so forth. The question then became, how about wireless? Wireless spectrum doesn't support high internet speeds. All right? So the wireless model plays on mobility. So when I'm driving here and I want to use my Waze driving app, I use my cellular connection to help me get here, but I'm not using my wireless connection to watch or download movies. I'm not using it to watch the internet in a high bandwidth way. So it's just it's different. Wireless will always be slower than Fios. Always. Always, because of the spectrum. Spectrum view spectrum as highway lanes. Fios view it as 10 lanes, right? View wireless, you can only buy 1 lane. It's limited in what it does, but it serves a niche. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, so how does my building speed up getting Fios to come and install in the building? I mean, is there a list or something? How do you get on that list to get Fios?
So the question is, because then I'm going to answer it separately outside of this. So the question is, how do I get Fios faster? I'm going to paraphrase. I put in the request. I've been waiting for the request. I still haven't gotten Fios. If I show you my emails today, no one's worried about their service quality. No one's worried about the price. No one's worried about the video pixelation. That I like the service. Every one of my emails that will come in negative will be, why can't I get it faster? What's holding me up? Some of those are from residents that we politely say have to go back, I'm not saying it's you, have to go back into their board because the property manager, who's the gatekeeper, might say, we don't like the way you're going to run it into the building. We want you to, no core drilling. And the reason why I'm not going to answer it specifically now is because each building has a reason and a design. So this is how we can bring Fios in, and we'll talk separately. This is how we can bring Fios into your building. Well, I don't want to see wires. I don't want you to be in my hallway. Okay. I got a cable in the outside. I got to get the cable to the inside closet. That cable has to go through somewhere, whether it's in the molding, in the duct, wherever it is. But what's good about Verizon, and I'll say this, is we pre-survey prior to signing you up. So the length of time is usually on the upfront understanding as to how we have to do this. It's not on, I signed up for it, and I guarantee you, it's not, I signed up for it in January, we got the design, I have my own entrance, and you're still not here 2 years later. Impossible. It could be that gentleman that has to run the cable behind the buildings, that one building could be holding up the design for the whole block. And that happens because of how we bring the service to blocks. Up by Columbia, University, 10-unit buildings, lots of them. Block job. Brooklyn, block job. Parts of Manhattan, block job. 300-unit building, own entrance, open hallway, open walls. Goes like that, right? So each thing's a little unique, but I do want to get the address and so forth. Is there any other questions or? Alrighty. Hey, listen, guys. visit us at booth 100 for your property specifics. I do want to thank you for the time. Next year, same presentation, but a faster number. All right? Thank you, though.
And we'll be a year older.
Yeah. A year old. Thanks, Rick.